Hey guys, so continuing with my series of my favourite books that I read during 2016, today I'm going to be talking about my favourite fantasy books that I read during 2016. And in this category I kind of included everything, so everything from just general fantasy to dystopian and science fiction and things like that as well. And the first one that I will talk about is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. Rainbow Rowell is a really well-known contemporary author. It's really lovely. Probably one of the best like YA romances that I've ever read, to be honest. I think that the fantasy elements of this book made it really interesting, but it is definitely more of like a contemporary style. So the focus is definitely more on the relationship between Simon and Baz. And yeah, I'm super obsessed with this book. I really want to just reread it because it was amazing. It's the most like heartwarming story on the planet. I don't know, I just really enjoyed reading this one, so I highly recommend it. The second one that I will mention was definitely my most anticipated book release of 2016, and that is Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I do have a discussion video up of this, so if you want to hear my detailed thoughts on it, I've got a whole video about it. I know that a lot of people really didn't like this book, but I think the main reasons that people gave for not liking it was basically based on the fact that like this isn't the 8th Harry Potter book. It's not really a continuation of the story, and it is in a play format. Not only does that change the actual format of the book, so it's like a script, it also kind of changes the whole essence of the story, because plays are theatrical like in their nature, so obviously it's going to be a little bit more silly. I think that they promoted this as the 8th Harry Potter book, which was a really silly thing to do because it's really separate to the original series, and I think of it as more of like a tribute to the Harry Potter books rather than like one of them. I really loved this. I really enjoyed it as like a throwback and a nostalgia read, because it's so amazing to have this series that you love so much and be able to read a new story based around those characters. It was just really fun, and I loved this a lot, and I really hope that I'm going to be able to see the play one day. So like I said, if you want more details about my thoughts of this, you can go check out my discussion below, because there is too much to say in this video, except for I loved it. My next favourite is one that I mentioned recently, and that is Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I read this towards the end of 2016. I was definitely anticipating it. Like, I thought it was going to be really cool because it is a really unique sort of style. It's done through... it's files, basically. Like, the series is called the Illuminae Files, so it's a whole lot of documents and things like that, and I enjoyed this way more than I thought I would. I rated it 5 stars. It was definitely one of the best, out of everything, one of the best books that I read during 2016. It was phenomenal. I can't even describe how good this book was. I highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet, but I'm sure like most people have. I'm really looking forward to reading Gemina soon as well, and yeah, it's just a really good science fiction. I'm generally not a science fiction person, so the fact that I loved this so much says something. And yeah, the format is really unique, and the storyline is really surprising and unique, and really quite emotional in parts and really scary in parts, and yeah, I just liked it a lot. The final book that I will mention is actually a series, and that is the Infernal Devices trilogy by Cassandra Clare. So this is part of the Shadowhunters world. I really enjoyed the Mortal Instruments as well, but I loved this one. I'm like obsessed with it, and it's set during the 1800s in England, so that was really unique. It's kind of like historical fiction-y, but historical like fantasy, if that makes sense. So good, and especially reading the end of the Mortal Instruments series when it kind of ties back in to the Infernal Devices was just really awesome as well. And yeah, even reading, like, I read the Shadowhunters Codex this month, and just some of the references made to characters in these books was really cool. And yeah, I just love all of these characters and everything that happens so much. I don't want to talk too much about the plot or anything, but basically there's a girl called Tessa who is captured by some bad people because she has a really unique power, and then she gets rescued by Shadowhunters, and the story kind of goes from there, trying to, you know, they're trying to figure out what's going on and stuff. There are 2 main male characters in this, Will Herondale and Jem Carstairs, and I love Jem. I know people like tend to like fangirl over one or the other. I'm definitely a Jem girl, so yeah. But I also really love, I just love the friendship between Jem and Will. They're parabatai, and I just thought their friendship and their whole storyline was amazing. So I love those books. I'm like obsessed with them. I want to get a Infernal Devices related tattoo. Like, that's how much I loved them, and they kind of just meant a lot to me at the time that I was reading them as well. Yeah, I just found some of the kind of like deeper ideas in it like really relatable, and that does a really good job of going kind of in depth and reflecting on life and stuff. And I just love that trilogy so much. So these were all my favourite fantasy reads for 2016. Let me know some fantasy books that you guys really enjoyed. There are so many YA fantasy books on my TBR, so I recognise the fact that I have not read many YA fantasy books that I should have, but getting through them. If you loved any of these books as well, or if you didn't love them so much, I would love to know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I will see you guys with my next video in a couple of days.